Good day and welcome to our short unboxing and demonstration of the S20 FE 5G. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to compare this to a Samsung S9, which is a likely upgrade model that people will be moving from. The 8 and the 9, about 3 years old, so most people will be upgrading. Now, we also, as you can see here, have an S20 Ultra still sealed in a box. We're going to do a separate video on the S20 Ultra 5G, but I wanted to show it to you here so you can see that, you know, even in the box, it's not that much bigger, but what it does have is a stylus. So we'll leave that alone for now. So compared to an S9, the S20 FE, the fan edition, does not have a Bixby button. I think of that as an enormous benefit because I can't stand the Bixby button. It also doesn't have the heart rate monitor or the blood oxygen monitor. It also doesn't have a headphone jack. This has Gorilla Glass 5. This has Gorilla Glass 3, which means it's going to scratch more. That's not a good thing. The new phone, the S20, is also about 15% heavier. Now, we're actually recording this video using another S20 FE 5G, and I can tell you that it's not particularly noticeable. And as far as size goes, this is 5.9 inches, whereas the S20 FE is 6.5 inches. And you think, yeah, it sounds like a big increase. No, it's really just taller. Another big difference is the S9s have a curved edge, and the S20 FE does not. Personal preference will say whether you prefer the curved edge or not. I didn't like it when I first got it. I'm kind of used to it now, but it won't be any effort to go back to flat screens. So it's not something I'll pay for. Now, in case you're wondering, just briefly, the S20 FE, the fan edition, there's lots of reviews on this, so you can get this elsewhere. But the FE is probably the model that you're going to end up buying if you're looking for an S20. And the reason is it's about 30% cheaper, less expensive than the standard S20. And it's only missing a couple of features. And in fact, in a lot of areas, it's better. So it has a larger battery. It has a larger screen. Again, to my mind, and you can watch other reviews on this, this is just actually a better product than the S20 full version. In fact, I've read a few places and that would go so far, and I will repeat this to say the S20 FE 5G is probably the best phone ever made. And you think, well, geez, guy, you're going to go off on this tangent and be a fanboy about it. No. Best doesn't mean that it has every feature that you could conceivably have. Best is a subjective ranking that's a combination of the price and features. This has 5G. This has a big screen. This has a giant battery. This has a fantastic set of 3 cameras, and the list goes on and on and on. We're going to go through them. But I believe that most people will buy the FE, and the S20 will not be a very popular product from here out. Okay, so let's get to it. Let's unbox this thing. So there's one little piece of plastic here to cut. Dun, 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 dun. There we go. There is the phone. Now, for some reason, they stuck the instructions up here. When I first pulled this apart, I didn't think it came with any. Now, you don't care, and I don't care. We're not going to use these instructions. I just found it was a little odd. They had this little package up top here, which has instructions inside of it that they kind of buried. So we'll simply pull it apart to show it to you, so you don't have to. There's nothing here that you wouldn't expect. I've already gone through it once, and yeah, nothing really shocking. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I guess the only thing that's worth pointing out, really, you can get headphones that have a USB Type-C jack on them, and a lot of people aren't familiar with that, so yeah, just be aware of that. Other than that, there's really nothing useful here. It also has a SIM card. It also has a SIM card remover on the back here. Okay, so that's enough of the box. Let's get to what you're here for. There's the box. There's the device. Typical plastic cover. Sheathing that you pull off. I'm not going to because I need to deliver this to a client. Let's pull this apart. Nothing on there. Simple. Just a basic fast charger. And then in here, nothing. In here, that's your USB cable. Woohoo! And that, boys and girls, is the whole thing. That's all that's in here. They've kept the cost down. We don't need anything else. And so no headphones. Just nice and simple. Okay, so let's get this thing started. And you'll notice one thing right away that is kind of annoying. So when you go to power it up, put that back down, you'll notice that it will come up and say that you need to insert a SIM to go through the quick setup wizard. Well, okay, then I don't want to go through the quick setup wizard because I don't want to put a SIM into it. Okay, well, unfortunately, there's no way around it. I've checked this out. There's nothing much you can do. So let's just do it. So I'm in Canada. I'll sit here and wait. There we go. Now I click go, and it says insert a SIM to use the setup wizard. I don't want to set up the quick setup, use the setup wizard then. And there's no way around it, as I said. So I don't have a choice. I'm going to then, therefore, use the remover, pop it in. Now, when you do that, just make sure you don't put it in the microphone. That would be very bad. This tray is actually a dual tray. So the SIM card goes in the front, and you can put an SD card up to 1 terabyte in the back, which is pretty good. I found documentation, by the way, saying that you can go up to 512 in the FE edition, but I believe it will go up to a full terabyte. So anyway, pop this in. You can't screw it up. It has to go in like that, right, with the actual card out, and pop that back in. And this restart takes a minute, and I'm not going to take up your life with it, so we'll advance through this quickly. All right, so let's set it up quick, and we're going to roll through this so you don't have to sit and watch. For the few people that don't have a Google account already, you're just going to need one. If you don't have one, sure, the phone will work, but it'll drive you crazy. So just give in and get one. Okay, so I've gone through the basic setup already, just to save time here. Set up by Fingerprint, which is something I highly recommend that you do. If you do, you'll see that there's an ultrasonic fingerprint scanner right here, which means, yes, it's in the screen. Well, it's actually under the screen. So it's using sound waves to figure out the ridges in your finger. Now, the reason I've stopped and showing you this part is because your Samsung account is actually, well, at least for me, it's very, very handy. As it's showing up here, these are the things that you get with a Samsung account. If you don't have one, I'd strongly recommend you get one. And you can sign in with your Google account if you want. Now, I actually have a separate Samsung account, so I'm going to use it. And I use this phone for, well, I certainly use it for health, for, step counting, so on and so forth. I certainly use it for Google Pay. I use my debit through it. I also use the Galaxy Store to get a few extra add-ons. So anyway, I'm going to enter my information here, and of course, I'm going to have it so you can't see it. But we'll go from there. We'll bring it back as soon as it's done. Okay, so I've read all of these, and I'm going to click agree. Okay, so now that we have this up, let's go over a number of things that are much better with this device than with the old S9. The first of which, of course, is that the S9 is strictly fourth generation or 4G, whereas this particular model is a 5G model. Now, there is an S20, several S20 models that are 4G, so you need to be aware of that not all of these are 5G. And you also need to be aware, and I'll put this up on the screen, that 5G is different in different places. So a 5G phone will work from Canada in the US, and the US and Canada generally. However, 5G devices from other parts of the world will almost certainly not work in the US or Canada, and potentially vice versa. So here's a list of the bands that are available in the different parts of the world, and you'll be able to see quite clearly that they don't overlap very well. So just be aware of that. Next thing, S9 64 gig, this 1 terabyte. This, the S20, has an SD card slot that will let me add up to a terabyte card into it, which is great. This is a 5.9-inch screen. This is a 6.5-inch screen, but look, it's not really that much bigger. So I'll put it on top so you can see. And it's really just a little bit taller. And that's about it. So yeah, nothing much to worry about there. Now, the other thing, this is tremendously important, this is actually a millimeter thinner. So it gives you an idea that it's really not that big a deal to change from the smaller S9. Now, because this actually has a reduced number of pixels on the screen, you'd think, geez, it won't be as clear. Well, I would argue that and say, well, I'm sure on a benchmark, and if you were to pay attention very carefully, you would see a difference. But in practice, there's very little difference. They're both Super AMOLED. They're both very clean and very clear. So I think that the benefit of having fewer pixels far outweighs the benefit of having more pixels. And do you think, well, what benefit could there be to having less? Our whole world is based on more. Well, the benefit is your battery will last longer and your gaming will be smoother. So if you're a person that likes to play games, this is going to be a great device for you. There is a dual SIM model of this as well. So you can get one that has a second, that supports a second SIM. The problem is, I don't think any of the North American products will support it. Certainly the TELUS version, which is what this is, TELUS doesn't have any dual SIM cards. They don't want you to be able to use those. Next thing is the cameras. So the camera here, you can see there's one camera. This has three. The most important of those is the selfie camera. It's a 32 megapixel camera. And as you can see here, let's just go into the camera and I'll show you a bunch of setup stuff here. But there we go. Actually, I'll just go to video. I'll go to setup and I will go to front camera. And it defaults to a very nice resolution, full HD, 1920 by 1080, 30 frames a second. But look, you can push it all the way up to 4K and 60 frames a second. There's that ultrasonic sensor. There we go. Let's get out of here. So 32 megapixel camera that does 4K, 60 frames a second. Pretty impressive indeed. Battery life. This S9 has a 3000 milliamp. This has a massive 4500. With the reduced screen's number of pixels, you're going to get pretty decent battery life out of this. Now, I haven't ran these long enough to grind them, but I can tell you that this is definitely better. Also, of course, this is 3 years newer, so it's just a better battery. Both of them have wireless charging. So if I pop it on, you can see using the old fast chargers, the old wireless fast chargers work just fine. You don't need to buy new equipment there. There's another complaint that I've seen around about the Samsungs, which is, well, they're taking longer to charge. Yeah, it's 50% larger battery. It's going to take longer. That's just how it works. It's just math. In fairness, there are different speeds of fast charging. You think, isn't all fast charging the same? No, it's not. And yes, this is using the slower version. It's just fine. Don't sweat it. Next thing, both of these units, the S9 and the S20 FE, both have 8-core CPUs. Now, at this point, you're thinking, oh God, the guy's getting into CPUs. I don't really care. Well, I'm going to gloss this over and just get to the point. In North America, the 5G models, all of them, are using the Snapdragon 865 for their 5G, running at 7 nanometers. And you think, oh, that's a lot of techno garbage, dude. I don't care. Okay, the bottom line is, this is an 865, this is an 845. This is better. This is built on 7 nanometer, which I only point out how tiny that is. So, and one other thing I want to say is that both of these are using ARM. ARM is the engineering company that engineers the CPUs. It uses their big little architecture, and it's pretty cool. Both of these have 8 cores. In an Intel world, 8-core CPUs would be a single CPU with 8 of identical cores in it. This doesn't use that. This uses ARM's big little concept, which is it has a number of high-powered CPUs and a number of low-powered CPUs. One of the articles I saw from Samsung suggested that on modern phones, the average person would be using the lesser or little CPUs 95% of the time. You think, oh, I don't care, bud. Okay, well, what that gives you is much longer battery life and less heat, both of which are good. Both of these phones are IP68 water and dust proof. That means that basically you can put this into 5 feet of water for up to 30 minutes. So that's awesome. It means you can take it to the beach, you can drop it in the toilet, you can do whatever, and it will be just fine. Okay, so I'm only going to show you one thing that you probably need to change on this. After you have this phone set up the way that you would like, if you travel at all, you're going to want to go into the settings and go into connections, and you're almost certainly going to want to go into mobile networks and turn on data roaming. Really, that's the only thing that you absolutely need to do if you travel around. Now, while we're here, I want to point out how you can get on or off of 5G. So the package that we have on these phones is quite large, so I'm not worried about using too much data. But if you are and you want to slow yourself down and get onto a smaller network, you can go into your mobile networks, go into mobile network here and select the lesser network. LTE is 4G, and you can see we get all the way down to GSM. Wow, that is pretty old. Now, I did see a review from somebody who claims that their version of this device did not have this option. They could not turn 5G off. And they thought it was a hardware thing. I'm positive it's not, and that it's simply that the version of the operating system that they have, or even the vendor that they're on, has turned that off. So I would call the vendor and argue with them and say, hey, I need to be able to turn that down. So for most people, you would never want to turn this off, but you might if you're having troubles and you want to verify that 5G isn't causing the problem. Just put it on to LTE and you're on your way. Okay, that's about it. If you have any questions or concerns, please get a hold of us at www.urtech.ca. Thank you. Bye-bye.